Hello everyone, my name is Seth, and today we're on lesson 2 of our RPG series. Today we're going to be adding in 3 different methods of health. As of now, we're just using this print string method that shows us at the top our value, our health value, which is not the most ideal. So instead we're going to add in 3 different styles. One is just going to be a number that will display the health on screen. The second one will be a health bar, and the last one will be a customized bar if you want something more to your liking so that you can make it in your own and whatever art program you want. So let's just get started. But the first thing that I'm going to do is for our character, we die a little bit quickly, so I just want to make it so we take less damage from this character, the enemy, so that we can see the health bar more. So let's go back into our enemy and let's change this damage to something like maybe 5 so we can see the health bar more, and then we can get started. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to explain quickly, and I think the best way to do that is just to draw it out. Like I said, we draw everything to help us visualize. So in Unreal Engine, there's going to be 2 different worlds, and that will be the actual world of the game itself. So this is the world that you're creating. Pretend that there's like characters, there's trees and stuff, there's your environment. So we'll draw mountains and, like water and rivers flowing through it. Anyway, this is your 3D world. And separate from that world, there's a different plane. I should probably use a different color here. So I'll use blue. There's a different plane that goes over that gives us a view of this world. And this is known as our screen. Now, if we want to draw a health bar, we're not going to be drawing our health bars, so not into this 3D plane, this world here. We want to be drawing it on this screen that we see and display. And this blue thing is known as a HUD. So to make a HUD in Unreal Engine, we're going to go to, I like to keep everything that's related to our player in the same folder as it. So just navigate to your third person folder, go to here, and we're going to go to the user interface at the bottom. This is also known as your UI, but more specifically, we're going to be making the HUD. That's my mistake, which is our heads up display, and UI stands for user interface. So if we go to our user interface, we're going to scroll down to the bottom and we see that there's this widget blueprint thing. So this is a special type of blueprint. I'm just going to go to user blueprint, and I'm going to call this, remember we like to name our things accordingly, so I'm just going to call this, this is a widget blueprint, so WB third person character. So we're going to try to stay consistent. We have all of our stuff here, so we're going to open this. And it's going to look a little different from what you're used to, but we still have our event graph if we go to the top right, where we can program stuff, but we won't be using this one. We're mainly going to be using our designer. Now this designer is going to be showing us our screen. So this blue part here is what we see in the designer. So we can draw on this designer page to display on our screen right here. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing. First things first is to be able to draw, you need something to draw on. And so we are going to use something in Unreal Engine called a canvas. And what this canvas allows us to do, you can think of it like a piece of paper to draw on. This canvas allows us to be able to draw on our screen. Now we can adjust the resolution here, as you can see, to your liking with this arrow at the bottom right. So if we zoom out, we can see the full display of all the screens up to any resolution you want. I'm just going to go to 1080 since that's my resolution, but whatever your resolution is, we can always just adjust this later. We'll put that there. And now, this is going to be very simple. We're going to make a progress bar. Now this progress bar is self-explanatory like its name. It's going to show the progress of something. So in our instance, we're going to bind it to health, and so that this bar will change based off of whatever our health is. Now, we want to be able to move this around in the corner. Whichever corner you like, you can put it there, but I'm just going to keep everything in the bottom left. I feel like that's pretty standard for health bars. And so you can do that using this anchor at the details panel for your progress bar. So we're going to go to the details panel, and at the very first thing we see anchors. You click on this arrow drop down, and I'm just going to go to where I feel like I want it. You guys can choose anywhere. I'm going to choose the bottom left. And now you're going to see that it stays in the same place, but the position Y is going to change. That's just because you can adjust this, and we can see that those numbers will be changing. If I press this arrow, this should reset it to its default value of 0, and you can see that it's anchoring to the bottom left now. Now I don't want it in the bottom left, I just want it a little bit offset from the side. So I'm probably going to use a number like -60. Okay, maybe a little bit more. Let's go -80 for the position Y. And then for the position X, I want it a little bit off to the side a little. So let's just do 80 again. And there we go. Now if you want to adjust the size of this bar so that's a little bit bigger, remember this thing is going to be your screen, so you can kind of get an idea of what this progress bar is going to look like. We can change the position Y to change the height of the bar. So if you want to make it taller, you can just change the Y value. I thought 30 was pretty good, so I'm going to keep it there, but I do think it needs to be a little wider, so we can change our position X. Let's see, maybe like 4 times bigger would look good, and I think that looks okay. Now we're going to change the color of the bar, and you can do that with this value. I think pretty standard. It's either health is either red or green. I'm going to go with red. Let's do some sort of bright red color. Find whatever color you like. I guess it's not too important, so I'm just going to keep it at that. Now you see this color is not changing, but that's just because this progress bar changes based off of a percentage. So from 0 to 1, we can imagine a decimal point. I'll just draw it out for you guys at the bottom. Remember, visualization is helpful. This is our progress bar. Sorry, it's a little laggy. And it's labeled, its progress is labeled by 0 to 1. So this middle value, if I wanted to draw here, I'm going to use a different color. Say if the progress bar is filled up to about here, that means that it's measuring our progress to be 0.5 or something like that. And we see here, if you look at this progress tab, if you go down a little bit from anchors, we see that its percent default is 0. If you you see as I adjust this value, we see that the bar changes accordingly. 0.5, we see that. Now, we want this number to change based off of our health. Instead of being at one fixed value, we want this value to change. So what we can do is we can create a binding. And what this binding will do is that this percent number will be binded to some function. So here, we can see that we can program this and to return some type of value for us. Now you can imagine what we're going to be doing is we're going to be pulling our character's health into here so that we can measure it and use that for our progress bar. So we're going to go back. To go to the designer tab and the graph tab, you just go to the top right and you can switch between them. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name to something that's, remember, naming is very important. So it's something that I'm going to remember and know what it does. So I'm going to say function. Just standard convention, at least for what I do, is I do whatever type of thing you are making. So in this case, I'm making a function. So I'm going to call it func underscore and whatever you name it. So this is going to be something like get health. Okay. So if we go back to our player, let's take a look at exactly what we will be grabbing. we know that this variable is our health. What we want to be doing is we're going to use this function and somehow get back to this TPC health so that we can use it to get a return value for our node. Now, the only thing is that TPC health, if you guys remember that when we created it, it's out of 100. Although our progress bar uses values between 0 and 1. So I can't simply grab health into here and return the value because my health will either be 100, 90, 50, some number, even down to 1 HP. It will always be full because this value only reads between 0 and 1. So somehow we need to take our health and make it into a decimal that's between 0 and 1. And so what we can do is we can create a new function that records maximum health. So if we take this max health, for example, let's say our current health is 90, and we divide it by our maximum health. So let's say this new second variable, I'll call it max, and I'll say this one is current. Sorry for the bad handwriting, I'm drawing with the mouse. We're going to get a value, a new value that is in between 0 and 1. And so that's what we're going to do. So the first thing that we need is we're going to create another function. You can either press, another variable. You can press this plus sign and make a new one, or you can just, if you want to save time, which is what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy and paste this. So copy, Control C, and then you can press Control V to paste it so I don't have to make a completely different one. Instead, I'm going to change the name. You can double click on top of the name like so. Wait, there you go. You can double click into the name, or you can right click, rename. And then I'm going to call this one max health. And this should already be set to 100 since we copied these numbers over each other. Now this is just going to be in here. The reason why I'm going to create this as a variable in here instead of just going in here and dividing it by 100. In the future, if we're ever going to make an RPG game, I'm assuming that there's going to be a way that we can upgrade our health. So it'd be much easier if we just created this in our character class, that whenever we change max health, it changes automatically instead of having to go to the HUD and manually change those numbers. What we're going to do is we're going to need to access those variables. So we're going to right click onto the blueprint, and we're going to say get player, and we want to get our third person character. And so what you can do is you can get player and then look for character, and this should be the character that we are playing. So we're getting that character, and now we can do something called casting. Now what casting is going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us to access everything that's in this file inside of here. So normally the widget, this function, only has access to everything inside of itself. What casting allows us to do is it allows us to grab everything that's in here to be able to use it in the function. So I will demonstrate cast to BP third person character, and then we're going to connect these widgets together. So I'll connect this and to the return node, and now, as we stated before, we want to be able to get this variable TPC health. Now, while I was testing this myself, remember naming is important, so you want to type out the name, but I was stuck for the longest time trying to figure out why my variable wasn't showing up when I was typing the exact name. So TP health, TPC health. So if I type TPC health, we see that it doesn't show up, but for some reason, Unreal Engine 4 does not read underscores. So if you're ever trying to access your variable and it has an underscore, when you're trying to access it, do not type the underscore. I honestly don't know why, but I will demonstrate. Suddenly, if we remove the underscore, it just sees it as a space, and they show up here. So we're going to get this one, get TPC health. We're going to get TPC max health. And just like we did in this drawing, we're going to divide them by each other, and this should give us a number that's between 0 and 1. So I'm going to divide TPC health by TPC max health, and that should give us a value that works. So there we go. And now it's binded, so this health bar should change accordingly as our health drops. But the last thing that we need to do is, if we try to play our game, we see that our HUD isn't in the game. And that's because currently we're in this world, this game world right now. So this arrow right here, we're in this world right now, but we're seeing everything from the perspective of our first person or third person character. Now we need to add the HUD that we just created. So this is our health bar. I'm going to use a different color here. Let's use green. We need to add this to our screen, which is this blue part here. And so what we can do is, we're currently playing our third person character. We need to add our HUD into our third person character. So the way that we're going to do that is, when the game starts, I'm going to add what we just created here to our third person character, because this is the character that we're playing, so I want to see it from this person. So if we move everything out of the way, let's move everything down so we get room. Remember that event begin play is the thing that we're looking for, because this is when the game starts, this will happen. So when the game starts, we want it to create a HUD. Now we don't want to mess with our timer that we created, so what you can do is you can use something called a sequence. This will keep us more organized as well. You can draw from outside of this line, but it will lead to, it's really complex. Just use a sequence. And we want it to be the first thing that we do ever. We want this HUD, so we're going to make it the first instance here, move everything else below it, and we're going to say construct. Now what this construct will allow us to do is, it will spawn a new object. If we hover, it says attempts to spawn a new object. And what we want to be spawning is our WB third person character asset. So if we just type WB third person, this will now create our widget onto our screen, or into our character. But the last thing that we need to do is, even if we play the game, you're going to see that it's not adding still. We need one more step. So if we go back, we can do add to viewport. And what add to viewport will do is, this blue part here, this blue that I'm drawing with the green arrow, is our viewport. It will add our widget with the construct that we just created. So this construct adds that widget, and this add to viewport will add that widget to our screen. So now it's in our screen. So we just add to viewport. Now I don't want anything colliding here, so I'm going to move it down a bit. Now we can compile, save. Oops. One thing is, you have to add these together, because we're adding our widget to our viewport, not our self. So it's trying to, the reason why this is giving an error is because it's saying add the BP third person character to the viewport. That's not possible to add something that exists in this world into the screen world. So we have to return our widget, which is made for our screen, into the viewport, and this should work. So now if we play our game, we should be able to see it. And there we go. That's our health. Now, as our damage was working, we see that our health bar is depleting and we die. So that's perfect. We want to find two other methods to be able to use to create a health bar. And it's going to be a very similar process. It should actually be easier than using a health bar. We're going to use numbers instead. So instead of a progress bar, we're going to be adding in text, and the process is going to be very similar. Actually, we should be changing our name so that's easy to remember. So I'm going to say PB health for progress bar health. And the text, I'm going to say text health. So for our text health, we're going to do the same process where we anchor it. We go to the bottom. We can reset it. Can move it around. So I'm going to do negative maybe 100. Okay, it looks like I need to go more. And 50. In your game, you guys don't have to put them all next to each other. Choose whatever method you want, but I'm just going to be showing you different ways depending on what game you want to make. So looks like 100 is going to be good. So just get it into the position that you'd like. And the same process, like how we binded our percent to function health, we're going to take that text block and we're going to bind that text to a new binding. So we're going to create a binding. And we see here that it creates a new function at the left. It says get text health text. I'm going to change the name again so that we know the difference. So I'm going to say function get number. I'm going to say num health for number health instead, so that I can differentiate it from get health, these two. And it's going to be the same exact process to grab that variable. So we're trying to get TPC health, which if we go over here, this variable here, we're just trying to get that. Now we don't need to do any fancy division or anything. We can just grab the health straight up and it will display it on screen. So this should be a little bit easier than our other one, than our progress bar. So we're going to say get player character. We're going to cast to BP third person character, which is the character that we are playing. We're going to link these together. Oops, my mouse got stuck. Move it around, and we're just going to get TPC. Now remember, don't add the underscore, otherwise you won't find it. You can just type TPC health, and we can just plug it in. Now you can see that this is green and that this is pink. Normally you wouldn't be able to plug these values in, but occasionally it will automatically convert it for you, the values, if it is allowed. So you can see here it says convert float to text, and that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. Now the thing is, our TPC health is normally in decimals. So if we look at our TPC health, it's 1.00000. We don't want it to display all those decimals. Now Unreal Engine knows this, and so it automatically converts it to a different type of float called a double. But let me show you the difference to text. There's a double and there's a float. The float is the one that's going to show all those decimal places. The double is going to round your numbers for you. So say if my health was something like, let me draw this out of the way down here or something. Say if my health was 90, oops, sorry, where's my pencil? 98.7. If I use the toText float method, it would literally display 98.7, this value. Now decimals don't look clean, but if that's what you want, you can. What toText double is going to do is instead it's going to round those numbers. Now how exactly it rounds, I don't remember if it rounds it to 98 or 99, but it rounds it for you so that you get cleaner numbers. So this is what we want. Now we're going to save, and we're going to run the game, and we're going to see that we have that number there, and you see that it's not a decimal, even though in our TPC character it is. Let me go back. We see that TPC character is 100.0, but in game we just see 100, which is exactly what we want. Now if we get hit by the character, 95, 90, 25, and perfect. This is exactly what we want. Hey guys, this is a post-editing note. My goal is to try to keep our videos short, like hopefully 20 to 30 minutes long, and this ended up being a lot longer than I expected, just because I'd rather be thorough than be quick. So I want to make sure that you guys are learning. So I decided I'm going to split this HP thing into 2 different parts, so that we can have higher quality videos rather than rush stuff. But I want to try to stay consistent with this Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule. So the next part, Friday, is going to be the stylized HP, as you can see on the screen right now. I'm sorry that we couldn't do the 3 methods like I said today, but I hope to see you guys Friday. Thank you guys so much if you stay to the end. As always, if you have any questions, ask me below, and I hope to see you guys in the next lesson. Later.